So a few days ago, I made a video on the M1 and some leaked benchmarks that were absolutely amazing, and you can check that video out in the icon above. But today, we have even more benchmarks of all kinds showcasing the amazing abilities of M1 and also some shortcomings. So make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification, and with that being said, let's just tuck in. So the first benchmark I want to delve into is the Geekbench test taken under the Rosetta 2 emulator, because obviously most apps aren't going to be ready for Apple Silicon, and so you have to rely on the Rosetta 2 emulator to bring x86 apps to Apple Silicon. And obviously you kind of expect a performance dip, and yeah, we see that. So roughly we're seeing a 20% drop in performance with Rosetta 2, which is to be expected, but what's quite impressive and what's kind of mind-blowing to me is that even with this 20% drop, Apple Silicon still single-handedly destroys every other Mac in the lineup in terms of single-core performance. That is truly mind-blowing. I mean, think about it, an Apple Silicon Mac runs x86 apps better than an Intel Mac. Like, what the hell? But unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, because there is a significant dip in terms of multi-core performance. So in terms of multi-core performance, the Mac Mini with M1 falls behind the Mac Pro, the iMac Pro, and even the iMacs that were launched this year. So yeah, that's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, this is an entry-level Mac and it's definitely not competing with those top dogs, but kind of disappointing nevertheless. And it does get slightly worse because Rosetta 2 obviously can't fully translate every app to Apple Silicon, and so if you're using intensive apps like Adobe Premiere, for example, which relies on multi-core performance, you're going to be seeing a huge dip in performance with these Apple Silicon Macs. And so if you're in the boat where you rely on Adobe's suite of apps, I would wait till Apple Silicon matures and Adobe brings over their suite of apps to run on Apple Silicon natively. Also, across the board, these M1 Macs do have pretty limited cooling compared to the likes of the 16-inch MacBook Pro and the iMac. So while these are very powerful machines, they definitely won't replace those bigger machines when it comes to sustained performance. I mean, there's a reason why Apple still sells Intel Macs, and so if you have a 16-inch MacBook Pro or an iMac, no need to cry, no need to get angry, because your Mac will still be better when running intensive legacy apps that aren't supported for Apple Silicon just yet. Right, let's now move on to the GPU performance of the M1 chip, because this is also quite an interesting story. So for reference, Apple claims the integrated GPU in the M1 is the world's fastest integrated graphics in a personal computer, but is that legit? So there were two tests done on the M1 chip, one in Geekbench against the 5300M AMD GPU in the base 16-inch MacBook Pro, and a second test comparing it with the GTX 1050 Ti and the RX 560. Yes, you heard me right. Desktop class 75-watt GPUs against a puny 15-watt integrated GPU in an Apple Silicon chip, and the results are pretty mental. So first, let's delve into the Geekbench results, and as you can see, the M1 is incredibly close to the AMD 5300M, and that's pretty impressive because, again, this is an entry-level chip, and the fact it matches or nearly matches a high-end MacBook is very, very impressive stuff. But what's more impressive is that the M1 chip beats the GTX 1050 Ti and the RX 560 easily, and that's insane because, again, these are desktop class GPUs. This is an integrated GPU. It's kind of mind-blowing. Now, I do want to asterisk something because obviously this does sound a little too good to be true, and that's because it kind of is. So these tests were done under Apple's Metal API, and that's kind of cheating, I guess, because obviously the M1 is going to be super optimized for Apple's API, but nevertheless, it is pretty impressive. So in some tests, you can see nearly double the FPS count with the M1 chip, and that is actually genuinely mind-boggling because, yet again, let me remind you, this is integrated graphics and it's keeping up with desktop class GPUs. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself again and again, but I'm trying to get the point across because this is revolutionary. Of course, one might say, these are older GPUs, why don't you put them up against the new ones? Well, this is the thing, these are entry-level Macs, they don't need that much GPU performance, and I'm expecting the M1X or whatever the higher-end Macs will have will be able to keep up with those higher-end GPUs. But for the time being, the fact these entry-level GPUs are this good is definitely a good thing. Honestly, this kind of gets me tingling all over the place about Apple Arcade, because apparently Apple's working on some AAA titles for Apple Arcade, and maybe we'll actually see gaming being a viable option on the Mac. And honestly, if that was the case, I'd be very, very happy, because that would be great to play games across all platforms. I think that would be ideal, so we'll have to wait and see. But yes, the future of M1 is looking very, very bright, people, and I'm looking forward to seeing the tests that are going to be done in the coming days, because obviously people are going to be receiving their M1 Macs very soon, and I can't wait to see all these tests done in person. But let me know in the comments, people, what do you think of all these benchmarks? Do they impress you, or do they impress you? But for the time being, I'm going to end it here. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification, and I'll catch you in the next one, people. See ya, peeps.